It seems like it's simply bad public policy. There's nothing complicated about it. The Fox Garden in-house solution has been already used before, so my company was stolen on that point. But the appealing simplicity of streamlined authority has been brought up before. Senator Faber was the first, I think, to mention that. We do have streamlined authority. It's in the hands of the EPA. And why would we want to break that apart? It seems that there's a clear preference in this bill to favor the interests of agriculture over the general interests of the state of Ohio. If we conclude that we favor the interests of all of us, then we'll leave that streamlined authority in the competent hands of the EPA. Factory farms can produce more animal waste than a small city produces. It's been a long time since we considered it okay to discharge the waste of a small city untreated onto the land or water. I think that the Ohio EPA's oversight of this is the last bit of a strong suit in an otherwise fairly weak situation. Do we really want to be the precedent-setting state that becomes the first to step out of line and delegate this authority to an agency charged with promoting the interests of the people it's supposed to regulate? I think there's a false sense of urgency about the need to do this right away. I believe that the current federal administration looks favorably upon this proposal in a very tentative way, and only until the end of the year, and only out of respect for presidential authority embodied in a few final acts of the last administration. I believe the new administration intends to exert its view of how things should go starting January 1st. There's no reason, this is not a matter of national security. We don't need to do this month. There are certain interests that would like to see it done this month, but I think in general interest, we don't need to do it right away. I'd like to point out that since the Clean Water Act was passed 40 years ago, in general, Ohio has made significant and across-the-board improvements in water quality, to the point where we have even managed to get 800 miles of streams to meet the state scenic river criteria. 2 of those rivers have met the national scenic river criteria. We lead the league. In the Midwest, we're by far the best performer. Indiana has 10% of the scenic stream miles included. Kentucky doesn't have a program. West Virginia doesn't have a program. Pennsylvania has 10% of what we do west of the Alleghenies. When it comes to lifestyle amenities for our own residents and recreational and environmental tourism draws, we've built the system. Do we really think that ODA will be a partner in furthering those efforts in the future? I'd like to mention the accountability provision, or the lack of accountability. In industrial situations, it's completely understood that an industrial waste producer has cradle-to-grave responsibility. Why would we sever the responsibility of the producers of these potential catastrophes and delegate it to downstream contractors who have, in almost all cases, very little ability to compensate for any damage caused? Finally, I'd like to mention, I hope Senator Strayhorn will be able to stay, but Rivers Unlimited has some very on-the-ground direct action works in progress, and one is on the Great Miami River. It's in concert with what the Five Rivers Metro Parks in Dayton and University of Dayton, and also the Miami Conservancy District are doing, to try to create a sense of place that attracts the sort of professionals that Dayton wants to attract to those employers. Those 3 groups went to Dayton's employers and said, what can we do for you? And they thought they'd hear tax breaks. What they heard was, we want you to create a sense of place. The people that we want to come here need things and want things like good parks, mountain bike trails, paddling opportunities. Well, the single biggest impairment on the Great Miami River remaining is nutrient overload. That's only going to be exacerbated by lax oversight of the people responsible for that overload. Furthermore, the Dayton area has 2 scenic rivers. How would we like to see one of those become the first delisted scenic river in state history? And finally, I'd like to mention that the Mad River also in the Dayton area, is about to become a scenic river. It and the Vermilion are the two studies that are on the shelf pending approval. Nothing in this bill promotes the improvement of our programs in these areas. Thanks for your time, and I won't elaborate on points that have already been made by others.
Thank you, Mr. Rourke, for your testimony. Does the committee have any questions for the witness?
Just